all here this evening, and it is a very special evening at that, in what will soon be known as Starr Auditorium. I want to thank Kevin, yes! I want to thank Kevin, Cindy, Robin, and Jody for asking me to be a part of tonight's wonderful dedication. And I know you guys got cheated, because we stole a lot of your father's time. But also, I want you to know there were many times I secretly wished I was the 5th Starr child. Many times. And if that were true, I probably would be a teacher now. A retired teacher now. However, I digress. The last couple of weeks, as I thought about tonight's ceremony, the memories just came flooding back. And I'm sure that's true of all the people that will be talking to you tonight. I know I could talk for hours about Jerry Starr and the influence that he had on my life. I promise I won't do that. I've tried to organize my thoughts using the lessons that I learned in Mr. Starr's speech class. And I can hear him right now saying, "Randall, I told you to use index cards." I think I got an A in that class. I don't remember. If I got an A in that class, it was one of the few A's that I got here at Kenmore West. But actually, my most vivid memory of speech class, right backstage here, Mr. Starr's speech class, was when I lifted his starter's pistol from his desk to use for my speech. I convinced all of the people in the class to close their eyes, and then I shot off the gun. And there was a lot of screaming and yelling, and Mr. Starr wasn't real happy about it, and after that, the starter's pistol got locked up. I can only imagine what would happen if somebody did that in class today. But when I think of this auditorium, I can see Jerry Starr everywhere. I can see him right out here, watching, directing, yelling at us sometimes, smiling. I can see him right here on stage, demonstrating a piece of blocking to somebody that just couldn't get it. I can see him backstage working out details with the stage crew. And right behind this, well, maybe not this drape, but the other grand drape that was here, giving us a little pep talk right before opening night to steady our nerves. He was great at the pep talks. He was, and I have no other way to put this, but my favorite teacher of all time ever. But beyond that, he was a mentor. He was a great director to me and my guidance counselor. Now, I had an official guidance counselor, but I couldn't tell you who that was. Jerry Starr was my guidance counselor. And in the years after high school, I'm glad to say he was a friend, a confidant, a lunch buddy, and oftentimes a sounding board. I heard some folks talking about this earlier, but in the late 60s and early 70s, this place was jam-packed. It was teeming with baby boomers. More than 900 students were in my graduating class, and this auditorium right here was filled twice in order to accommodate all the graduates. If you were not a high achiever in those years, or if you were on the other end of the bell curve, a troublemaker, it was very easy to slip through the cracks. I was in the middle. Well, actually, I was on the troublemaker side of the bell curve for a while, doing hard time in Mr. Stark's office for various offenses. But fortunately, I fell under the spell of Jerry Starr early on. He was a patient man. And he had to be patient when you think about him working with high school kids and the hormones and the anxiety and the drama, not the drama on stage either. He was very patient, but I tested that patience many times. Like the time that rehearsal came to a screeching halt because I handcuffed myself to Faith Truscott. Who knew that there were no keys for the handcuffs? And that the Tonawanda policeman would have to come and hacksaw the cuffs off us. But he forgave me for that, eventually. My career in broadcasting and theater, or what some people might call show business fringe over the years, started right here at Kenmore West with Jerry Starr. And some of his early lessons still stay with me. Believe in yourself, give it your best shot, If you mess up, forget about it, move on, there's always another show. And the most important lesson for a class clown to learn who is interested in entertaining 24/7, turn the faucet off when it's not in use. Leave it for the stage, Mike. Jerry's World was an exciting place. It included this auditorium, of course, this grand old proscenium stage, and I remember him telling many times and being proud of the fact, look at the fly space we have here. It's the first thing I look at when I go into a new auditorium. Your people don't have any fly space. You should see Kenmore West. Also, his classroom, which did duty as a dressing room, rehearsal space, lecture hall, and a hangout, sometimes all in the same day. In fact, I was hanging out in his classroom. Mr. Starr was on break or at lunch, and Mr. Lucia, the gym teacher, came back and caught me skipping gym class. That wasn't the first time I'd skipped gym class. And worse than having to take gym class 5 days a week for the rest of the year, a punishment that Jerry heartily signed off on, was knowing that I disappointed Mr. Starr. Jerry's World was not an exclusive club, but it was a special one. And that backstage door was always open to anyone who wanted to be a part of his world. And whether you were on stage or behind the scenes, Jerry Starr could make room for you. I can't think of another area in this school that had more traffic than Jerry Starr's world, or the kind of incredible creativity that took place here. In Jerry's shows, there were no stars. The egos had better be left at the backstage door, and we worked together, building, painting sets, gathering props, learning lines, and working to make those shows come to life. Some of that, no doubt, was a little bit because we didn't have a budget. There was no budget, but it all worked out. Jerry Starr was, as I remember him, charismatic, he was funny, he was thoughtful, and he had the biggest soft spot in his heart for his extended family of kids. He was proud of their accomplishments during their high school years and beyond. One time when he had all of his classes collecting canned goods for the less fortunate for Thanksgiving, the newspaper wanted to come and take a picture of him. Of course, he didn't want to be in the picture, so he pushed his kids into the picture, and this student teacher, but it was Jerry that inspired us to do it. His world extended beyond Kenmore West, and anybody who knows him knows that his influence was far-reaching. But just by virtue of the incredible number of hours that he logged up here in this auditorium, on this stage, in that classroom, he probably should have had his name on it a long time ago. But better late than never. This was his second home for him and for the hundreds, maybe thousands of kids who stepped through the backstage door over the 34 years. He made it their second home, too. Now, when my dad passed away 8 years ago, I found a copy of a letter that he'd written to Mr. Starr in 1970. It's a parent's perspective of what made Jerry Starr so special. I believe I was 15 at the time. Dear Mr. Starr, I direct this to you since I know how much behind-the-scenes work you have done on the South Pacific production and others before it. Certainly every person connected with this production must have a major share of plaudits for this superb performance. It was a cold, windy February evening, February 20th. It was slippery driving and freezing rain and snow was the forecast. For months, we've been subjected to Mike's late appearances for dinner, humming of bits and snatches of show music in his favorite monotone, and to be perfectly honest, I was just not in the mood Saturday evening. You know the feeling, sort of ho-hum and so what. Well, magic is a funny thing. Sneaks up and clobbers one before he knows what is going on. The baton raised, silence swept the auditorium like a great broom, and the beautiful strains of South Pacific medley rolled out over us. I was transported, it seemed, to a magic island where my son became a salty version of stew pot, Bloody Mary wove her magic valley-high web around us, and the snow and slush, wind and rain belonged to another world. Scenery, casting, music, choreography, action during shifting scenery, The children, the costuming, and lighting all gelled to provide a severe critic of such performances with a most memorable experience. Not a musical person myself, I am content to be a spectator, but I demand much, and I honestly got a lot more than I ever expected last Saturday. To take a gangly bunch of kids, weave them into a closely knit group of artists, and top off the whole with enough enthusiasm to launch Battleship must bring you great personal rewards. Please keep them coming. From a couple of parents who appreciate in a small way the great amounts of yourself that you share with these young people, a simple thank you. For the balance of this production and for those yet to come, wishing you what we've wished Mike so often. Break a leg, Mr. Starr. Break a leg. Sincerely yours, the Randalls.